right before Mincha, and the Beis HaMikdash is mamish burning. But there's a gilui of that nechama of the third Beis HaMikdash, of Geula. So all of the years, instead of saying a drasha, all of the years we've spent this time learning something inside together. And it's very hard to choose. There's so many things to learn. I decided that we would learn a piece of this remarkable kuntres. Those who have been part of the Yosef HaTzadik Chabura, we've been learning the past few weeks already, a couple of months, Yesodis B'Avodas Hashem from Reb Aaron Rubenfeld. It's a huge Talmud Chacham, a big mashpia. And he's putting out Kuntresim. And this, I understand, I have, it was sent to me as a photostat, a copy. The kids don't like when I say photostat. Copy. And as usual, I had it put together, and now Erev Shabbos it came out in a sefer. But I like this better. So the pages that you have are from this 140-page kuntris from the Mechaber, Moshe David, who you like very much, this Mechaber. And it goes into also Shabbos Nachemu and Tubav. It's a whole sefer. So we'll learn a few pages. This strange shiluv of Avelus and Simcha, which the Chassidish Sfarim talk about. In the non-Chassidish Sfarim, what you'll find, of course, is that Tisha B'Av is a moed. We don't say Tachnun. And that it's a time of hisvadus. Moed is a lotion of hisvadus, of farbregging with Hashem, and a closeness with Hashem. But the simcha of Tisha B'Av, what is that? What's the simcha of Tisha B'Av? One of the Chevra told me that he looks forward the whole year to Tisha B'Av. But it doesn't mean Chalila, the Churban. But he looks forward to that truthfulness of Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av is an honest day. Tisha B'Av talks about things that we have in our minds the whole year, but we don't talk about. So let's learn. Nachdem Tchilul Levaris Inyan Havelus Al Churban Beis HaMikdash V'Al Golus Yisrael. Right, you have that? Al Pi Ma Shemavur B'Sfarim HaKadoshim Mukubel Eitz Chassidim Shederach Hanhagas Havelus Ubay from Pnimi Yosef Hanhagas B'Pashtus Hanhag B'Pashtus. Our familiarity with Avelus Lo Aleinu is from Shiva, from Shloshim. There's Avelus, old Avelus, things that happened a long time ago. There's Chalila, a person has Avelus now. But there's a Chitzonius and there's a Pnimius to Avelus. V'novi tchila hasipra mekubel etz l'chsidim v'gamuva b'yitav panim shemesaper shom ha'shesipra le'zekenu ha'kodesh b'al Yismach Moshe schus ha'yelenu ma'shahoyer lo b'nesi ha'rishon shel ha'rav ha'kodesh ha'choyzim Lublin schus ha'yelenu. Today's his yard site. Today's the yard site of the Choyzim Lublin. And there's a famous story of what happened when the Yismach Moshe went for the first time to see the Choyzim Lublin. The Yismach Moshe was struggling with that trip to Lublin. He was already one of the greatest Gaonim, Rabbanim in all of Europe, the Yismach Moshe, but something was pulling him very much to Lublin. He was analyzing, he was trying to understand what is Chassidus. And Hutav Be'enav. Of course, the rest is history. Yismach Moshe. There was something that was bothering him very much. There's a mashal that's very famous that you're familiar with. That's only part of the story. But there was something that was bothering him. What bothered him was what the Chassidim were always besimcha. They always seemed to be happy, partying, having a good time. The problem that Yismach Moshe had is that it seems to be against an offene din, an open din in Shulchan Aruch. At the beginning of Shulchan Aruch, that it is befitting and proper for any Jew who's God-fearing, who has Yireh Shamayim, to be made sevadog, to be worried about and to feel anguished al Churban Beis Hamikdash. And this was bothering him when he went with this to the Chayzer from Lublin. His Hispal, and on the way he was davening L'Hashem Yisbarach sheyizke lekabel tshuva al shelos lazu b'vayel lefnei hatzadik. He was davening that when he would come to the Chayzer, when he would come to the tzaddik, that somehow that he'd be able to ask this, and that the tzaddik would be able to explain this to him. He was hoping that maybe he wouldn't even have to ask. If what they say about the Chayzer is true, then maybe he wouldn't even have to ask. The Chayzer would know. But Yismach Moshe had another problem. It was on his mind. Chazal say that if a person wants to be Messiah himself, if a person wants to become great, to become pure, Messiah so. In the plural, they help him. Messiah It is not written in the singular that Hashem helps him. Messiah knows so. Yismach Moshe understood, and he probably had heard or seen, that not only does Hashem help a person who's trying to become good, but the tzaddikim will also help. And he was wondering whether or not this tzaddik, the Chayzim Lublin, was going to help him. And when the Yismach Moshe came to the Chayzer, Yismach Moshe was the Rav of Uyel. We had some of the Chavri here, we were together there by the Yismach Moshe and Uyel. Uyel Rav. Why do you look? Why do you look sad? Long-faced. Maybe it's because it hurts you about the Churban Beis Hamikdash. It wasn't Tisha B'Av. It wasn't anywhere near Tisha B'Av. But maybe the Churban Beis Hamikdash. He said, "Hein emes." So the Chayzer said right away, "Hein emes shekosa b'Shulchan Aruch roilu chayei shamayim she'meitze v'doig al Churban Beis Hamikdash." It's true what it says in Shulchan Aruch, that a Yirei Shamayim should be worried over the Churban Beis Hamikdash. It's true. But already we find in the Chavis Levavos that we're taught, that my joy is on my face. I show a happy face to the whole world. And the Avelis that I have, the Avelis that I'm carrying, is in my heart. That a Jew doesn't walk around with a long face. And whatever you have in your life, whatever you're worried about, whether it's Churban Beis Hamikdash or it's your own Churban, you walk around with Sahala, you walk around with a face that's smiling, and you carry whatever it is inside of your heart, the Avelis. So then the Chayzer says to him, so he was saying to Yismach Moshe, smile. And then he said, "Hein ta'aminu lanu ki anachnu oimim tikkun chatzos bebechia vehesped." The Chayzer said, "Believe me, I say tikkun chatzos with crying, bebechia vehesped, v'im kol zeh hakol b'simcha." And he didn't only mean tikkun leia, he meant also tikkun roch. Hakol b'simcha. I say tikkun chatzos, I cry, b'bchiyah v'hesped, but hakol b'simcha. And then there's the famous mashal that the Chayzer told him from the Rebbe Shmelke, Schusi Aleinu, which I'll just remind you of the mashal. There's an arichas to it. It's very beautiful and very deep. But the mashal itself, I trust you all know that the mashal that he gave was that the king was once with some of his people, and they were in the forest or hunting or something, and there was a crazy, crazy, horrible storm. And all of the chevra, all of the avodim, all of the people that were with the king, each one just ran for his life to try to save himself. And the king was left treading around by himself. And he was filthy and dirty from the storm. And finally, the king sees there's a light on some house, a shack in the middle of nowhere in the forest, and he comes there. And there's a person that opens the door and welcomes the king in, and made him a bath, a delicious meal, and gave him warm clothing. So the mashal of the Rebbe, it's narichas, but the mashal of the Rebbe Shmelke was that this Jew who brought in the king, this person who brought in the king, was filled, of course, with mixed emotions. On the one hand, to see the king in such a state, to see the bizarreness of the king, that his people left him like that by himself. Nobody cares about him. Nobody was meis nefesh to be with him. That they left the king like wandering around by himself in the forest. So on the one hand, this person was so tzebrochen that the king should be in such a matzav of bizarreness, with filth and schmutz and so on. But on the other hand, what a gewaldige kavod to see the king into. And to machnes archem, to provide a meal for the king and warm clothing for the king, with a gewaldige schus. So that's the mashal. I don't think I have to explain the nimshal. Everybody understands. On the one hand, the Golas, the Shchinas and Golas, the king of all kings, is in the world, Bizyainus, by himself. The whole world has left him, has left the Shechina in such a way. And we're here after thousands of years. We bring him in, we give him some warm clothing, we put up a fire and a good meal. It means our mitzvahs, our masim tovim, our tefillas. And the king doesn't forget that, who his real chassidim are. So the nimshal, of course, what the Chayzer gave over to the Yismach Moshe from the Rebbe Shmelke is that I also cry over the Churban Beis Hamikdash, but I'm also besimcha from that. That in this matzav that we're in, of Tikkun Chatzos, of Churban, that I and all of us have the schus to bring the king into our homes, into our lives, when nobody else cares about him. And the whole world has left him. And he needs us, kivyochel. That's the mashal. So the Chayzer told over this mashal to the Yismach Moshe, and he continued and said, "Wat mir nicht gedraft the Zeilen unsere Sachen, which means Hainu Shenim and Haroi legalos dvarim shetzvichim lios b'atznei lachas." And then the Chayzer said, that, not everything that's on my mind and in my heart do I have to share with everybody. But however, I will tell you this. The Chazal tell us, the second issue that was worrying the Yismach Moshe on his way. But Chazal say, it doesn't say in the singular Messiah. Shekoy LaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ela Messiah, B'loshen Rabin. Shnachnu tzrichim gam l'seiher. That we also have to help, meaning we, the tzaddikim, also have to help Jews, not just Hashem. V'yitav Panim Messiah, Yitav Panim was a grandson, of course, of the Yismach Moshe. the grandfather of the Satmar Rebbe Schus Yelena. V'yitav ponim Misayim shezo ha-remez b'pasuk sisu ito masois kol ha-misablim aleha. And that is the deeper meaning of the pasuk. Sisu ito masois. Rejoice together with her, with Yushalayim, with the Shechina. But who are the ones who are able to rejoice with the Shechina? Only those who are misablim aleha, who feel the unbearable pain of her loneliness, of her tzarachenkeit. Only the ones who say Tikkun Chatzais and who keep Tisha B'Av, Be'emes, are the ones who are able to rejoice together with the Shechina wandering in the forest. That's the Yismach Moshe's arrival into the world of the Baal Shem Tov. V'hine b'shkaf rishon kosher lahavin, eich nitan l'shali b'chi v'simcha yachta, k'divrei achayze. The Mechaber says, but the truth is, it's hard for us to understand how to integrate these two. The b'chia, the crying, and the simcha. Ano oisim tikkun chatzais b'b'chivim kol zais b'simcha. But the Chayzer said, I cry when I say tikkun chatzais, but it's always b'simcha. Ulam b'pnimiyus hadvarim pshuta. But that's only if you look at this story and if you hear the words of the Chayzer, b'chitzonius. And many people, of course, do that. And the same thing when you look at the Chassidim, b'chitzonius. But that's what the Chayzer was saying. It was giving muster to the Yismach Moshe. B'chitzonius. Ki beruchnius bevadai shaykh l'shalev kamer hageshim yachim. Ruchnius doesn't take up space. The same way that the Oren in the Kodesh Kodashim didn't take up space. And therefore in Ruchnius it's possible for a person to contain within one heart two opposing, two radically contradicting emotions, conflicting emotions. As the Alter Rebbe speaks about in Tanya Yud Aleph, B'Shem HaZohar Kodesh, which I've mentioned many times over the years, Chedve tekir b'liboy misitra ada, B'chia tekir b'liboy misitra ada. That there are two ventricles, two sides of the heart. One side of the heart is filled with joy, and the other side of the heart is crying. And the Zohar is teaching us that these two can go together, they can travel together. You know, one of the Chevra sent me a message today, because I sit over the Maaseh with Eli Bizel and Lubavitch Rebbe, Schus Yelena, and Lubavitch Rebbe, he gave him the ability to cry again. And one of my Chaverim, who I love very, very much, was a fellow child of Holocaust survivors, sent me, I would have asked the Rebbe to help me stop crying. So how do they go together? That's the question. How do they go together? The crying, and not just to stop crying, but the crying, not to stop crying, and not to stop living. That doesn't work out. And if you talk to a person who's a chitzonius, an ish chitzoni, it's other this or that. And you know people that are like that. They're either like on or they're off. They're in or they're out, right? Nowadays, especially nowadays, it's like that's how a lot of people operate. They're either in or they're out. Aliyah, Yerida. Happy, sad. What is this shiluv? That is the secret of the Ish Pnimi, the Chayzim Lublin, that he gave over to the Yismach Moshe. Reishis Kol, I'm afraid I'm not going to have time to finish, but at least we'll get started. Reishis Kol, Kshemazabayin B'inyan Zeh, Sheyesh Shnei Afanim Shel Avelis, Pnimi V'chitzayin. There are two ways of Avelis. We should know from it, but this applies as well to everybody. Chalila, when a person has his own Avelis over a loved one, this is also what it's all about. There's a way to experience Avelis in Chitzonius, and there's a way to experience Avelis in Pnimius. Pnimi v'chitzayin. Tzarech lizka shachitzon ha'kli la'or ha'pnimi. Everybody knows that the chitzon is only a kli. It's only a container for what's inside, for the or pnimi. Ululoi ha'avelis b'chitzonius ein kiyim la'or shel ha'avelis b'pnimis. Therefore, one has to be very careful. The avelis b'chitzonius is a container, is a kli. And that means what the Chayzer was saying, I cry bitter tears at midnight. That's the kli. I mourn the destruction of Beis HaMikdash of Yerushalayim, of the Shechinta Begalusa. That's the kli. You can't have the pnimias of what we're going to learn now without the chitzonius. If you don't have the kli, then you're just an oblivious fool. The kli is what holds the or. The world is filled with misery. The world is filled with sadness. The Beis HaMikdash is horrible. And a person has to feel that pain. Same way, God forbid, you lose somebody in this world and you're sitting Shiva. So what are you going to, you're going to sit down Shiva and the Olam comes in and they come to pay a Shiva call and you're going to say, hey guys, I'm a Baal Shem Tov Yid. Simcha, only Simcha. Lost his mind. Or he's so tzibrochen that he lost his mind. You have to have healthy kalim. This is a problem with a lot of people who take on Hasidus. They take on part of it, either the pnimius without the chitzonius without the pnimius, but not the whole program. The whole program is kalim that are healthy, shulchan aruch, learning, everything right, come to shul on time, you do what you're supposed to do, strong, healthy kalim, filled with or. That's the program. That's what the Baal Shem Tov meant. Not some happy guy jumping up and down, walking around, putting on his tefillin, Rabbeinu Tam time. I don't mean on Tisha B'Av, you understand. And the Chayz was saying that if I wouldn't cry by Chatzos, if I wouldn't be brokenhearted over the Churban, then there would be no kli to hold the or of the Baal Shem Tov, to hold the or of that joy, that simcha. Okay, in shematzina bor gashmi, she'ein ha'or meir ki'im kshenitbas bekli shel ner v'shemnu psila. Same thing when it comes to light that we experience, it has to have a kli. Okay, in the old days it had to have a candle, it had to have oil, it has to have a bulb, it has to have a kli. The light of the sun is a kli. There's the mo'or and there's the or. That which illuminates is the sun and is the or, the light of the sun. But there has to be a kli. Finally, she'or tzarech li'tapis b'kli. L'chein tzarech koydem kol l'kayim kipshuta yis ma'im chazal kol l'misabel al Yerushalayim zoiche v'roya b'simchasa. Therefore, kol l'misabel maleh means that koydem kol a Jew has to be a person who feels that pain. It hurts you. You're among those who are misablim aleha. And kol misabel Yerushalayim, and if you're such a person who's misabel Yerushalayim, zoiche v'roya b'simchasa, and everybody knows the diuk of the Kedushas Levi, which he brings down in a minute, it doesn't say yizke v'yira. When Mashiach comes, it says already what? Zoiche v'roya. Right now, you can be zoiche v'roya. Even now. Shnei ma'asis v'tamasai is kol misabel, the same pasuk that the Chayzer. V'ni b'sefer HaKadosh Kedushas Levi. Shabbat says, b'sefer Shmuel Tov v'miskasha b'mayim is Shom Chazal shemi she'ena misabel Yerushalayim and zoiche v'roya b'simchasa. So bothered the B'ditshava. Heich yitachin shayet tzaddik gomer v'oived Hashem k'deboy. How could it be that a Jew is a fantastic tzaddik and he does everything he's supposed to do? He's a big oived Hashem. And because there's one thing that he wasn't misabel Yerushalayim, he's not going to be zoiche to see the simcha of Yerushalayim, to see the nechama of Mashiach, because he didn't feel that aveilus. Ki'ilu, this is a punishment. That's what it sounds like, and that's what you will read in many, many Sfarim, that it's a punishment. The same way you'll find certain Sfarim that will say the Holocaust was a punishment. And that the reason that your uncle Shlomi died from COVID is a punishment. Everything is a punishment. So to this Gemara, if a person was not Masabel Yerushalayim, he's not Zoiche, so the Badishva said, how could that be? A Yid, his whole life is Noived Hashem, and this one Inyan wasn't his strength. And he shouldn't be Zoiche to Mashiach to see the Simcha of Yerushalayim. Because of that Kavanihi, Sha'af Yichi Be'ez Hagula, the Badishva said, no, he'll be Zoiche. He was a good guy. He put on tefillin, he kept Shabbos. She kept mitzvahs. She did what she was supposed to. 100%. 100%. You'll be there by the Nechama. You'll be front seat, front row by Mashiach. But the problem the B'ditcher says, that even though this person, because he was a good person, she was a good person, and kept everything in Shulchan Aruch, the person is going to be able to see the building of the Beis HaMikdash and be there for the celebration. As it says in the Shlan Masvarim, that if a person is a shtick holds of your piece of wood without emotion, and the suffering of other people and the suffering of the Shekhinah doesn't hurt you, it doesn't reach your heart, then even when you get to Gan Eden, or even when you come to Mashiach and you'll be there for the party, you'll sit like a piece of wood. You see the Jews that by Simchas Torah, that they sit like a shtick holds. I don't have to tell you that. You know that there are people that by Simchas Torah, they're not going against halacha. Everything is halacha. They just can't bring themselves to go in a circle and be happy. So what the B'ditcher said is that it's not a punishment. That if you lived your life with a heart of stone and you didn't feel the pain of the Shekhinah draying around in the forest, if you didn't feel that Avelis, I was talking about last night and today, you'll be there because you're a good guy. So you'll be invited to the party, just like you're invited to Simchas Torah. Everybody's invited. This guy for sure is going to be invited. It's a terrible thing. It's not a punishment. The same way they didn't feel that pain, he's not going to be able to experience the joy the way that it should be experienced. Doesn't mean he won't something, but the way that it should be experienced. He's not going to feel it. And this is the deeper meaning of the pasuk. Sisu itamasais, rejoice together with her. Kol mesablim aleh. Shemesablim bizman hagolas, those who feel the pain of the king, who feel the chil Hashem in the world, who feel that there's something else that's wrong besides the type of shaitels that some ladies are wearing. Who feel in pneumias, the chil Hashem, the chil Hashem. My wife, my girls were telling me about something that happened. There's a terrible situation. I don't want to speak about it in any pratim, but there's a terrible situation of a woman that was raised in a very frum family, a very wonderful family, and her entire family, the siblings are chashuva people. They're Russian Bali Tshuva originally, and that she, not only did she go off from Yiddishkeit, but she's made some sort of a movie, and she's trying to push something to, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, I hope you don't, and if you do, Hashem should help us all to forget that we heard about it. And my wife's reaction, of course, was right away, everybody's screaming, and my wife says, Yitamu chatoim v'lo chaitim. Of course, we hope that she'll come around, she'll come back around. And everybody's screaming about this is terrible, and it is terrible. But what is it about it that hurts you? This is what I want to understand. If what hurts you is her parents' pain, yeah, that's a deep thing. That's pneumius. If what hurts you is the chil Hashem of somebody that was, some years ago, I was told, giving shiurim in her community, and now she behaves like a mamish, can't talk about it. And she's making herself into a big celebrity. The chil Hashem. The chil Hashem. And if that hurts a person, that's a chush pnimi. It's not just a hak. I'm not talking about a hak. We're talking about an edel chush that a Jew has. It's not veilus and pnimius, it's not in chitzonius. It's hard to explain what that means, that chush of avelus. To feel the pain of that girl, of that, she's not a girl, of that woman's neshama, of her parents, of her community, of the Shechina HaKadosh, that such a thing is happening, and that there are now all kinds of girls going to school, to yeshivas, the Beis Yaakovs, that are looking at this and saying, wow, maybe this is something, wow, this is glamorous, this is gewaldig, and all the insecurities of the parents and pain of the mechanchim and the mechanchais that's going to be coming out when this really hits everybody. The chil Hashem, the tsar of the Shechina. Do you and I feel that when there's somebody that's not keeping Torah mitzvahs? When there's a Jew that's not keeping Torah mitzvahs? That the Shechina has such tsar over one of her children that's lost. That's already a different thing. That's not a hak. That's called kol misablim aleha. That's something else. Shemisablim bizman hagolus umagishim tsar amoik. Achisoron habayis v'hagula. Those Jews who during the long years of Golus, or their piece of time while they were in Golus, felt the terrible chisaron of the Beis HaMikdash. Because if the Beis HaMikdash would be here, then we wouldn't have such a situation that happened with this woman. And we wouldn't have these kids and adults that are running away. Hem yizku losus l'smoyach be'is hagula. The Baditchev is saying that those who felt that pain will be able to feel the joy. Everybody's going to be invited, whoever. It's a big invitation list, but not everybody's a mechutn, you understand? It's one thing to be invited, but it's another thing to be a mechutn. The mechutanim are the ones who took the Shechina in when she was caught in the storm during Galus. Those are the mechutanim by the Simcha. Everybody else will be on the side. Just like by Simchas Torah, there'll be very fine people, and they'll look up every now and then, they'll go like this a little bit, and then this, and then no, Chasen Torah, Chasen Breishis. But the mechutanim, that's already something else. They're going to feel the unbelievable light, the joy of that light, the ones who felt that it was missing. Not just because there was a diuk in the Mishnah Berurah that was missing, because the whole program is messed up. Anybody who has any connection at all to the Shechina knows that the whole program is messed up. Years ago, there was an article that I wrote called, I don't remember what it was called actually. It was based from the Piasetzna, have everything except the soul. I don't remember the exact lashon of the title. Huh? The only thing that's missing is the soul, from what the Piasetzna said by his 40th birthday. That I see the complete surah of a Jew. It's his 40th birthday. What should I eat? Everybody knows. Mitzvahs I keep. Aveirus I don't do. That's what the Piasetzna said. I don't waste any time, he said. Can you imagine? I don't waste any time. But I want to be a Jew. I want to, remember what he said? I want to convert, become a Jew. That's what the Piasetzna said by his 40th birthday. And I wrote that article, I called it One Thing Is Missing, the Soul. You have no idea how many people got upset with me about that article. There were people that were very, very excited and very happy, and there were a lot of people that were upset with me. And the whole point of that article, I don't know if it must be out there somewhere, I guess online, because but the whole point of the article was that we're living at a time where there are many, many, many people, Baruch Hashem, who are connected to the Kli and to the Diyuk in the Mishnah Berurah, but what happened to the Fed? What happened to the horse, right? What happened to the Tachlis of all of this? The Rebbeinu Shalom. Where's the Rebbeinu Shalom in all of this? Like the Chidushim once said, Chidushim Schusan was walking with his shamas. I once told this to you, I think. Chidushim was walking with his shamas because he used to take a walk every day when he was older. And he was walking with the shamas, and he stopped, and he looked at the shamas, and he said to him, before Mashiach comes, it's going to be very much like now. There's going to be a Rebbe, there'll be Rebbes, there'll be Tishim, there'll be Chassidim, there'll be tables, there'll be benches and chairs. The only thing that's not going to be is the Rebbeinu Shalom, is the point of all of this. He said that's what he saw, what's going to be in the future. The only thing that's going to be missing is the soul. That's all. So everybody's going to come to the party when Mashiach comes. But the Mechutanim are the ones who not only watched out for the Kalim, but they watched out also to fill the Kalim with Or. Because that simcha, that joy, is the Or. M'chlal hein ata shemei alav. That there are going to be those who are going to sit there like a piece of wood. Therefore, the Chayzer was saying to Yismach Moshe, I cry, it hurts me. That's the Kli, Pashtus. It's the same thing with the Talmidei Baal Shem. La Yismach Moshe, und gam Moshe ticken hat sei bebechiv hasben. Wir gehen hier durch gam. Hishtake kusa und tfiloisov shla Yismach Moshe ba'atzmal hagula ashlim bebechias neiros betachnunim and case Yismach Moshe was famous for that. His crying over the Churban and his hishtake kus for Mashiach. There are many stories. Yismach Moshe, some of them I told when we were there. There are many stories of Yismach Moshe. וכן ידעו מהגאון הקדוש ברוך חסם סופר, זכות יעלנו, כמה ימסבל ומספלש ובויכם מאוד על ירושלים לחסם סופר. כפי שמסופר על תלמוד אחד, שהסתכל לחדרו בערב Tisha B'Av לאחר חצות, that he took a peek into the Chassam Sofer's room, Tisha B'Av after חצות, וראה שהוא יושב על הארץ ומעיין בספר. And he saw the Chassam Sofer still sitting on the floor looking in a sefer. ומעיניו היו זולגות דמעות, and there were tears that were flowing from the Chassam Sofer's eyes. Voice and kibetz the kais, and the Chassam Sofer had a glass, had a cup, and he was crying the tears, he was gathering them in this cup. V'chakach shosa oison besudam afsekes. It's Erev Tisha B'Av after Chatzos. And the Chassam Sofer took these tears that he was crying, and that he had in his glass, and he drank them. Hoysali dimasi lechem yomim v'layla. וכן כל סביב תלמידיו שבכל דרשויו על הגולס והגולה היו ממהר בבכי גודל ועוצם כמו שיוזכר להלן. וגם בכל שני וחמישי בתחתון הגודל והורחום שמבקשים על בניין הבייס ועל הגולס היו עיניו זולגos דמעות שליש. The Chassam Sofer was bawling on a regular Monday and Thursday by V'hurachom, which we also, of course, are crying because the Chassan didn't come for V'hurachom, so we had to say it. But the Chassam Sofer was crying over the V'hurachom. El shlach shemekayim kol zeis yesh liskos divrei chayze shahisev amavaf al pichen hakol b'simcha. V'af al pichen hakol b'simcha. Daheide. Yachnem habechiva has b'tzuchem levar ketzad yelchu shneim yachtav habechiva simcha. So let's try to understand, how do these two go together? You know, there's so many people that you and I know, it could even be yourself, that have so many things in life that are good and so many things to be happy about, But there are things that happen to you in life that do not allow you to be happy, that simply imprison you in a place of Tisha, of Avelis, of Tikkun Chatzos. And you cannot be masik. How is it possible that somebody who has gone through what I've gone through or done what I've done, that this very same person should be able to be besimcha mamish, with a yontiv, with a Shabbos, with my children, with my grandchildren, with my wife, with my friends, with the world. Geitnis says, Amen, it doesn't work out. It's either this or that. That's not true. That's not true. And we might have seen such things in different svarim, but it's not pnimis, it's not true. Yesh ladaz. I'm sorry. Terem nover levayis kol yom nizkar or lahakti mini yisadi b'yosef avonis kol inin hagolius shabo aleinu. Now this is a very, very important hakdama. We're just going to have time to go a little bit into this. You'll be able to get the kuntres yourselves and to learn it yourselves or together. And there's much, much, much more than what's written here. There's much more to talk about and to think about. And it's not chidushim, things that we've spoken about over the years. And it comes down very much to how we look at suffering in Bechlal, how we look at the Holocaust. I'm sure that many of you remember that there was a very big machlois that caused a tremendous rift in Klal Yisrael between a very, very great and holy Chassidish Rebbe and a very big Rosh Yeshiva. And the Rosh Yeshiva spoke publicly very strongly about how the Holocaust was a punishment for the Jews of Europe at that time who were leaving Yiddishkeit. And the Tzaddik, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, spoke so openly at the Farbrengen against that, and it caused that whole thing there was a tremendous rift in Klal Yisrael. It hasn't been fully repaired. Yesh ladas. Ki agolus v'churban habayis eno mikra shel tsar kishar mikra hazman. What happened with the Beis HaMikdash in Yerushalayim and Bechlal Golus is not like another mikra that we see, a tragedy that we see that's part of the regular inyan of being in this world. Every person goes through difficulties, different inyanim, even personal tragedies and so on. Either to help that person think more deeply about his life, or to change his life, or for other reasons that people go through difficulties and challenges in life, but the Svarim HaKadoshim talk about. There's a huge misunderstanding about and about the Holocaust as well. That Golus is chelik michelke haTorah. There's no time. If I had the time, I would talk to you a little bit about this past year and a half or two of much what I was trying to give over. I don't think I was too successful, but I tried to give over. Was when there's a mageifa. There was a mageifa in the world. A mageifa is a makis medina. Mageifa is not a regular difficulty or tragedy. But most of the olim is taking it like they take other tzaros in life. It wasn't. It was something historical. It's something different. So this Svarim tells us about a mageifa. It's not the first time there's a mageifa in the world. It was the first time we felt a mageifa. It was the first time that a mageifa made me hit the whole world. And if it hit the whole world, then listen and think while we're learning this about how it fits into all of this. There are things that Hashem put into place when He created the world. The emes is that He already had it all worked out before He created the world. It's part of the Seder of the Bria. Hashem established when He created the world, gracious B'Elokim, Hashem set up the world in such a way where there's going to be a golus of Bavel, a golus of Paras, a golus of Yavan, a golus of Edom, and there's going to be also COVID-19, Corona, whatever you like to call it, the Mageifa. And there's going to be a Holocaust. That after these Mane Golas, there's always a light of redemption that is then able to flow into the world. After those Mane Golas that Hashem was Kaveya, He set up, the system was set up in such a way. Dova Nizgav Zemavu B'Medrash V'Aris Hoysa Sova Vo B'Choshech Al Pnei Sahaim Shemisyachis La'Arba Malchis that I just mentioned. The Chazal tell us that in the pasuk at the beginning of creation, when it says Tohu and Vo and Choshech and Tahaim, it's hinting to the four Malchis, the four exiles. Tohu is Malchus Bovel, Vo is Malchus Modai, Choshech is Malchus Yovna, Pnei Tahaim is Malchus Hayvashah, that we're in right now. V'Ruach Elokim Rachefes Al Pnei Hamayim. And the Ruach of Hashem is Merachefes, is hovering over the depths of the water. Zeh Ruach Shel Mashiach, that's Ruach of Melech HaMashiach, Ruach HaPein HaMashiach Hashem. V'roi mizeh she'inyin ha'golus v'agula v'chol inyin b'yas HaMashiach hayu chelik michelke ha'torah kvar mitchilasa. The Tanchuma in Parashas Vayeshev and the other places in Medrash where it's much more open, speaking about these things, about how there were things that were planned. Chol Zman Veis, I mentioned it sometimes in the Chaburas over the years. When it says Eis Le'ov, Eis Lisnoi, the Medrash says there was a time for Adam Rishon to be in Gan Eden. There was a time that was set up before creation for him to leave Gan Eden. There was a time to eat from the Eitz HaChaim. There was a time to eat from the Eitz HaDas. V'loi kechol shar ha'peskoi da'adu al-adam, not like other things that a person feels or a person experiences in regular challenges and difficulties in life. Sheboy machmas b'chirosa rosh shechata, which there are things in life, of course, mida keneged mida, the person makes poor choices, and there are consequences to the poor choices that we make. V'meizid b'shoigeg, v'utzarech l'kaparu h'tshuva yidei tzaros v'yisurim, and therefore there needs to be something to fix these. And we have Yom Kippur, we have Tshuva, we have Vidui. A guy fell asleep in the narishkeit of this world. When you have to wake him up and bring him back to Hashem, of course. But that's not what Golus is about. That's not what Corona is about. That's not what the Holocaust is about. And those who spoke of it as a punishment, Hashem should forgive them. They were some very fine people. That's not it. That's the chitzonius shebechitzonius. That came out of the mouths of people who were great in learning, but were not connected to Pnimius HaTorah. To the inside of Avelis, the inside of Jewish suffering. El'inyan zeh nikva mitchilas habriya sheyesh bat kufas galus u'tkufas hagula. Noira halili, the Medrash brings the pasuk that Hashem is awesome in how He does things. He's just what happened with Yehuda and Tamar, with David and Bathsheba, with Shlomo HaMelech, by the Chanukas Abayis, that he made a chasna with somebody who wasn't Jewish, a mitzvahs. The Medrash says that Hashem Yisbarach asked Avram Avinu, what do you choose for your children? Gehenna or Shibud Malchus? Which would you prefer? Gehenna after a person dies, to go to Gehenna to fix things? Or Shibud Malchus or the exiles? Which by the Bris Ben Abasarim, Avram Avinu was shown the future of the exiles. And he chose the Shibud Malchus. The Chenisa b'Medrash Ksiv Vayachal V'nei Sulamutzav Arza, by Yaakovinu's dream of the ladder, Omer Rabbi Shmuel ben Achman, Elusari Umas Ha'olam, the angels going up and down are the Sarim of the Umas Ha'olam of the nations of the world. Omer Rabbi Shmuel ben Achman, Melamed Sheva Kadosh Baruch Hu Yaakovinu's Sarah Shal Bavel, Oila Shivim Avakim Shal Madai, Nun Beis 52 V'Shal Yovan, different rungs on the ladder, Kuf Pei V'Shal Edom, Oila V'Yodeh Kama. The Yaakov was shown the representative angels of the four Malchus going up and down the ladder, except the one from Edom was going up and up and up, and he didn't see it fall down. The other ones he saw, they went up further and they went down. Like the earlier three kingdoms, that they were within a shear of time. Yaakov Avinu was terrified. He saw Edom going up the ladder and he didn't see him coming down. But Hashem, of course, reassured him that he's going to have a big nefila. We're going to be zochet to see it soon. A big nefila. Like they say, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. The whole inyan of the Abra Malchus, of the exiles, of Golos, including what happened in Germany in 1939 and in Poland and everywhere else, it's always there. It's all written in Chumash. It was all there. It's all part of Hashem Baruch's Mahalach. It wasn't because the Jews were Zionists or Bundists, or the Jews were not keeping mitzvahs. Everybody doesn't keep mitzvahs, has his own inyan with Hashem, and he needs to say viduin to do tshuva, whatever that is, and because of whatever he has to go through in his life. But that's not the Holocaust. That's not why there are 6 million Jews who got killed, and millions of children who never sinned, and tzaddikim and kedoshim and so on. And even the ones who were not keeping mitzvahs to die that way. No, that's not punishment. That's something else. That's something else. That's Noira Ha'alilya. Hashem's awesome way of doing things. We just don't get it. But it's all written. It's all down. I will continue as Hashem after mincha. 2012, so long ago. It's online. Cloud Perspectives, okay. Scott.